me give you some of the basic Kubernetes commands. So till now, we have talked about kubectl get and kubectl get nodes. We have talked about kubectl get nodes, which is going to talk about what are all the nodes are added to the cluster. Okay. And the next command we'll talk about is called kubectl get namespaces. Okay. So I told you while explaining the concept of Kubernetes, there is something called as a namespace, right? So namespace is nothing but a logical segregation of the cluster. Okay. I told like for every application, you can create a namespace and you can keep things running on it. Okay. So on a default Kubernetes cluster, okay, when you just bring up a cluster, there will be 4 namespaces will be available. Especially when you bring it with the kubeadm, there will be 4 namespaces will be available. We go one by one. So the first namespace is called as a default namespace. Okay. In Kubernetes, when you run a command, it is expecting you to provide a namespace. If you don't provide the namespace, the command will be executed on the default namespace. Okay. That is what the default namespace is. So default namespace is something like on a cluster, if you run any command, it will be by default executed on the namespace. If you want the command to be executed on a particular namespace, so you can provide the namespace with the -n option. Okay, that is what this default namespace is all about. And next thing is called the kube system. So all the Kubernetes cluster related containers and other informations will be available in the kube system. So kube system is the namespace where all the cluster related components like our API server, proxy, all those things will be executed in the kube system. Okay. And next one is called as the kube public. Imagine you are having a service and that should be visible to everyone. Even without login, the people want some service to be visible, then you will bring it up in the kube public namespace. So kube public namespace is a kind of a open. Even without access, any credentials, people will be able to come and consume the service in the kube public. Okay. And next one is the kube node list. So this is kind of a new namespace which they brought in, which basically used to collect informations for monitoring from the cluster. Okay. This is something kind of a new functionality they are bringing in. So we don't need to worry about it. So the major 3 namespaces should be concentrated on the default namespace and then the kube system namespace. Okay. And then the kube public namespace. Okay. So if I want to list pods, what are all the pods running on the cluster? Let me give the command kubectl get pods. Kubectl get pods. So you see that as I haven't specified any namespace, it's saying there are no pods running in my default namespace. Okay. But I know that there are pods running in my kube system. To specify a name system for a command, the option is kubectl get pods -n. I can specify the namespace. Then it will list all the pods running on the particular namespace. So if you see that in the namespace, I have the core DNS running, etcd running, kube API server running, kube control manager running, kube proxy, kube scheduler, and wave network. All these things are running. And note, please note, this kube proxy and the weave are running in two different pods because they are defined as a daemon set. I told about daemon set. How many nodes are connected to the cluster, that many containers will be running. So this is a 2-node cluster. So I have two pods of weave is running, 2 pods of proxy is running, and I have the core DNS running.